Hello friends, today's video is on a very important topic on whether input tax credit can be taken on motor vehicles. Well, section 17(5) of the CGST Act restricts input tax credit on motor vehicles, but the restriction is very subjective. On some motor vehicles input tax credit is allowed, on some motor vehicles input tax credit is not allowed. Any motor vehicle having a sitting capacity of more than 13-seater including the driver, you can take the input tax credit. There is no restriction. So if your motor vehicle is having a sitting capacity of more than 13 passengers, you can 100% take the input tax credit. Now what happens to the motor vehicles having a sitting capacity of less than 13-seater? You cannot take input tax credit. So any motor vehicle more than 13-seater, 100% input tax credit can be taken. Less than 13-seater, you cannot take the input tax credit. Now less than 13 seaters, there are three situations where you can claim the input tax credit. One is if you are a dealer in such motor vehicles. So if you are dealing in motor vehicles, you can take the input tax credit if it is less than 13-seater. Second is if you are in the business of transportation of passengers. So if you are a rent-a-cab or if you are in the business of transportation of passengers, you are eligible to take the input tax credit. Third is if you are in the business of imparting training on driving. So if you are in the business of driving school, in such situations you can take input tax credit. All these three conditions are applicable if the sitting capacity is less than 13. More than 13, irrespective of what usage you do, you can take the input tax credit. This is for transportation of passengers. What happens to transportation of goods? Any motor vehicle if you buy which is for the purpose of transportation of goods, input tax credit is 100% allowed. Now there is always a query raised ki I have got a motor vehicle. For example, I have got a Maruti Omni. I get that vehicle, I use it for goods. In such situation, can I claim input tax credit? The answer is straight away no. If the vehicle is registered as a passenger vehicle with RTO, even though you carry goods in those vehicles, input tax credit will not be allowed. So if you register such vehicle as transport for the transportation of goods, then definitely input tax credit is allowed. Now the last point is what happens to the servicing cost, the repair cost, the insurance what you spend for such vehicle, whether it will be allowed. Again, if the main motor vehicle input tax credit is allowed, then all the corresponding expenses like insurance and servicing for such motor vehicles will also be allowed. If it is restricted, then such expenses also get restricted. So any motor vehicle less than 13-seater not used for such three categories, then insurance, servicing and other costs related to such motor vehicle also will be restricted. Hope you liked the video. Thank you.